I was 28 years old before I looked through my first telescope. The telescope wasn't even for me. I bought it used for my business partner, Jenny. Jenny's an artist, and I thought the stars might inspire her painting. To be honest, the whole thing sounded kind of boring to me. I was a gym rat with a fitness company. I had an interest in philosophy, but not really science, certainly not astronomy. But still, we set it up, and I was right. It was boring. All we could see was a faint, fuzzy ball of light where the moon was supposed to be. So Jenny got frustrated and went inside. I stayed outside. I didn't know what any of it did, but I just started turning knobs. And then something happened. The light got smaller and smaller. And then it started to get brighter, and then it got very bright. And then it popped into focus. Imagine hovering just a few feet above the moon, almost like you could just reach down and touch it. That's what it felt like. So I started screaming. Jenny came running back outside, and then she took a look. There were a lot of long pauses and a few expletives later. And then she looked at me and she said something that would forever change the course of our lives. I wish we could share this. Creating and sharing access to the universal perspective, that is my life's mission. Whether you lean artistic, philosophic, scientific, or a combination of those, I believe the perspective of wonder that space, and really only space, can provide can forever change the way you see yourself, the people around you, and your time here on this planet. And time's the really important piece. We occupy a tiny segment of the human timeline. But it happens to be the moment that time and technology have converged, offering us, people alive today, the first chance ever in human history to explore the universe, literally pushing the boundary of human knowledge from our own backyards. I'm an astrophotographer. What that means is that I take high-resolution images of deep space using modern cameras and telescopes. What it also means is I hardly ever sleep. And like any good photographer, I'm going to spend the rest of my time here on stage showing you all of my photos. I'm just kidding. That's not what this is about. We'll go to the first slide. So this is one of my photos. The Rosette Nebula, a stellar nursery, the type of place that new stars are born. But we should move on. Another one of my photos. The Great Orion Nebula, another star factory. But this one is different. This one is important. Take a good look at this one. Remember the details. We're going to come back to this one. But first, I want to talk about perspective and how a small shift in the way you see something can change the way you see everything. Let's start here. Everybody recognize it? Of course you do. It's pretty on brand for this talk, right? Now imagine for a moment that your life perspective, up until the moment you walk up to this painting, has been one of black and white. This is what you would see. But while standing before this Van Gogh masterpiece for the first time ever, the colors start to become clear to you, all within the context of this painting. First some yellow, then red, then green, then blue. And then just like the moon that night, it pops into focus. Can you imagine how your perspective would immediately shift, forever changed with a new dimension of understanding? Not just one more beautiful, but one more honest, a closer representation of what the artist was trying to communicate. This is where our eyes fail us most when we try to explore the universe. Sometimes our perspective can be limited by our vision. Unlike a camera, there are no settings adjustments on the human eye. 1/60th of a second, that's your exposure time. A couple millimeters of pupil dilation, that's your aperture adjustment, all set to auto, by the way. Any photographer will tell you you never set the camera to auto, ever. But let's look at how this works. This is our timeline. 32,000 years ago, we see the earliest evidence of astronomy being done, with star charts inscribed into mammoth tusks. The red box here is meant to represent how long telescopes have been around, and the white, if you can see the white at all, is how long amateurs have had access to reliable and affordable equipment, enough so that they could do this exploration from their own backyard. The problem is the white's a lie. It's not to scale, it can't be. Even a single pixel at this scale would be too large. We're talking about 10 years in the course of tens of thousands of years. 32,000 years is a long time. This is the type of unassisted human eye view that our ancestors had of the Andromeda galaxy. 400 years ago, this really great guy invented the telescope. Thank you, Galileo. For the first time ever, expanding on the capability of the human eye. No more auto setting. People lucky enough since then to use one of these telescopes got a slightly better view of the Andromeda galaxy. Then in the 1970s, digital cameras arrived. In the last few years, being perfected to the point that we're seeing colors in the night sky as amateurs for the first time ever. It was never a monochromatic artwork at all. We just had to teach ourselves to see. These are the types of images coming from home systems by amateurs. People are spending more money on the cell phone in their pocket than it now takes to become an explorer of the universe. But you have questions, at least you should. I did. Is there really an innate interest in space around the planet, or am I just a super nerd? Probably 50-50. Can anyone really do this? Can amateurs really do this? And the third question, what about light pollution? Won't light pollution make this impossible? City lights, they're going to make this impossible, right? So I have a story for you. This is me getting thrown out of Times Square by the New York City counterterrorism police. I should explain. The idea was really simple. Instead of asking people to come out with us to remote locations in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, with no lights around, nobody around, which is impossible to do without sounding like a raging creeper, we decided to bring the telescopes to people. Right? I chose Times Square for two reasons. First, I thought it would represent a multicultural, diversified population because it's full of tourists from all over the world, a lot of them, not just a New York City locality. And secondly, it's one of the most light polluted city blocks on Earth. I knew if our light pollution filters could work here, they could work anywhere, in any backyard in the world. At least I hope that's true. If your backyard's brighter than Times Square, fix that. You know how this story ended, with us getting thrown out. But before that happened, something magical did. Immediately, gigantic lines formed around the telescopes. The conversation around us shifted. Space was the new topic. Thousands of people surrounding us, hundreds of kids really got to view the moon for the first time. The New York City police are really good at what they do. You can trust me on this. They were on us fast and intensely. But before they got our equipment down, one of our cameras was set up enough to take one image, and that image was already showing nebulosity. The filters worked. This could be done from any backyard in the world. But what about the third question? Can anyone really do this? Can true amateurs do this? There's a learning curve in astronomy, but is there a threshold? I mean, could a kid do this? I'd like to introduce you to William. At the time this project happened, William was 12 years old, and he had discovered my Instagram account, my space photos. He was using dinner time with his mom at night to discuss those photos. You have to understand, William loves space. By chance, William's mom met my dad at work 2,500 miles away from where I was in San Diego, but I reached out and asked if we could have a Zoom meeting. During that meeting, William and I made a deal. The deal was, instead of just looking at my photos, William was going to take his own. He was going to log into my largest observatory, control it remotely. He was going to be the astronomer. In fact, the only way he could call the image his own is if he did all the clicking, if he made every creative decision, and then the real catch, he was going to do it live. And ultimately, thousands of people would see it. But William is an incredible kid. And so he did. Do you remember this photo from earlier? The reason this was so special is it was not mine. This is William's. This is more than just a beautiful image. This is the souvenir of a moment that a 12-year-old realized the word impossible did not have a definition that applied to him. The perspective of wonder to the rest of us that just witnessed it. A perspective of wonder is a powerful ally. We all have really good reasons to keep looking up. Have you considered that every person that's ever walked the earth before you looked at mostly the same night sky you see now? Has it hit you that Shakespeare was talking about the exact same moon that you'll see tonight? Let's go further back. What about the dinosaurs? Plants and animals before them, starlit by a lot of the same night stars, still inspiring us today. We are connected to our collective past. And we're connected to our future. As explorers of where we're going, up is inevitably our direction. The photos we take today are contributing to the very first maps of it. We are the first cosmic tourists, digital cameras at the ready, to document what we see. Most importantly, it connects us to each other. Space is coded into the fabric of what makes us human. As Carl Sagan famously put it, we are all made of star stuff, quite literally. So when you go out next, look as far as you can see, way out to where the land meets the sky, and ask yourself, does that horizon feel more like a boundary or a destiny? I often feel the pressure to be an evangelist for the science of astronomy. And I get it. Nothing I'm talking about here today could be done without that science. But I leave it out. It's not to minimize it. In fact, I believe the scientific method to be the greatest single step humanity has ever taken in establishing itself as relevant in this unfathomably large universe. But it's not my love. And it's not a lot of people's. Astronomy covers everything with a capital E. Greatest rabbit hole in the world for inquisitive minds. But deep technical process can be less inspiring for people who source their wonder from other perspectives, like beauty, faith, philosophy, art. The list goes on. We can be authentic in our interests and still not miss out on the greater opportunity. The real opportunity is in leveraging the technology from our very unique and special time to be alive to expand our collective perspective. You have access to tools that allow you to see now further than any humans that ever came before you. Together, we can achieve what has become my life's mission: create and share access to the universal perspective. 8 years ago, at that first telescope, Jenny looked at me and she said, "I wish we could share this." We can. We should. And together we are. I hope you'll join me in sharing the universe. Thank you.